Before we start today's show, I want to make a few official statements. Number one, I don't want to take my own life, and I have no plans to die. If something happens to me in the near future, you know who did it. Number two, all facts presented in today's episode can be independently verified by visiting the links in the Google Doc in the description of this episode. And number three, all parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And the opinions presented on this program are solely those of the Conspiracy Files, the host and producer, both of whom being me. With all that said, let's take a deep dive. So the Bohemian Grove. We are finally at the Bohemian Grove. As of the time of this recording, I'm going to be in Monte Rio, the town that surrounds Bohemian Grove, on Tuesday. It's now Saturday. Yes, it is 8:45 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm sober, so all I do is really sit around and record me ranting about conspiracy theories. I don't go out and party like I used to anymore. But yeah, today's episode is very special, because I have a ton of legitimate materials from Bohemian Grove that we are going to expose. This is stuff people have never seen before. This is stuff that I don't think has been published on YouTube ever. I have an actual map of Bohemian Grove from 1998, which on the back has all of the attendees. There are some famous names we are going to cover and talk about. I have photographic evidence showing people in high positions in the United States government attending Bohemian Grove. These are actual photographs from the Grove, secured from Grove members. I have stuff like this official document linking George H.W. Bush and the CIA to Bohemian Grove. I have these official, from Bohemian Grove, programs of the cremation of care, that Moloch worshiping ceremony where they burn a mock child effigy. I have these programs. I even have right here a map of Bohemian Grove. I just have so much disturbing, really bizarre stuff that we're going to cover today. These are all legitimate artifacts from Bohemian Grove. None of this is fake. I'm going to scan all of this into the computer so that when I talk about it on screen, you guys can go through it with me. But I mean, just look at that. The program of events from 2015. There you see all the worshipers in front of Moloch, or who they call their little owl statue, burning the effigy. This is going to be a dark, disturbing episode, so listener and viewer discretion is advised. Let's get right into it. At some point in our lives, we have all wanted to be a part of something exclusive. Whether it's something as large as an organization or something as small as an inside joke, we all feel that pull to be one of the special people allowed to participate in something private, something where only those invited are permitted to take part. It makes us feel noteworthy or unique, as if we've been picked out amongst many others for some qualities that others don't possess. Being a part of something exclusive means excluding others who are not, quote, worthy or qualified to attend. In other words, when you're a part of something exclusive, you're in on that special secret that only you are qualified or dignified enough to know about. But why are some things kept secret? When considering an inside joke, sometimes it's to hide a subtle insult about somebody else, or it pertains to the old adage, you had to be there to understand. In the world of secret societies, these terms all come together to form one of the greatest curiosities of modern times, where exclusivity and secretiveness are one and the same, where they know something that others are not privy enough to understand. Most secret or exclusive societies operate in the shadows, with their headquarters of operations hidden from the world. Their clubhouses are a well-kept confidence that no one but the dignified members are privy to. In the case of one of the most famous secret societies in America, the Bohemian Club, this couldn't be farther from the truth. The Bohemian Club operates almost out in the open, out in the redwoods. A host of redwoods, the only eyes and ears welcomed in on their shadowy dealings. Intruders of all kinds are turned away, even rumored to be shot at to keep them back from whatever is hiding in their arboreal lair. The Bohemian Club allows only the prominent, and at that, only men, to learn of their secrets. But what secret could be so profound or exclusive that it could warrant lethal consequences for its intruders? When saying you had to be there in the matter of Bohemian Grove, what dark mysteries are unraveling beneath the pines? That's what we're here today to find out. So before we talk about Bohemian Grove, the location out in the redwoods of California where these elites are doing rituals, we first have to talk about the Bohemian Club itself. The elite invitation-only Bohemian Club was founded in San Francisco, California in the year 1872. It was composed of male artists, journalists, lawyers, actors, and writers, all of whom wanted to promote a fraternal bonding place for men to enjoy the arts and culture. Above all their trades, these were men of means or of wealth. The group's founders, some of whom wrote for the San Francisco Examiner, chose the term Bohemian to represent the club. This term was meant to elicit images of the cultured, intellectual, urban Bohemian, as opposed to the Bohemian who was impoverished, poor, broke, and destitute. The distinction of class was important for the members of the Bohemian Club, denoting it as a status attained with wealth. Early members of the Bohemian Club were authors such as Mark Twain and Jack London, and at the club's inception, members regularly gathered to socialize, enjoy theater, and watch musical performances at their headquarters. 6 years after the club was founded, though, a 2-week retreat was established, which came to be known as the Bohemian Grove, a tradition that has continued year after year. Attendance to the Bohemian Grove was originally meant as a send-off for an actor who was moving across the country to New York City. To send this guy away, they chose to meet in a rural forest, a beautiful place filled with towering redwood trees, located near Monte Rio, California. Over the years, eventually, the Bohemian Club acquired that land, which today is now a total of 2,700 acres. The Grove boasts a multitude of roads, trails, maintained buildings, and dining venues. The club doesn't only meet once a year, though. Members still gather year-round at the Grove and at the club's headquarters in San Francisco, permanently established in the 1930s. We actually stopped by the Bohemian Club's headquarters in San Francisco to grab some footage, so let's cut to that now. So now that you've seen that, weird, right? Very bizarre. Right in the middle of San Francisco, you've got a conspiracy brewing. And it's only going to get worse from there. You see, in its early days, the Bohemian Club had moved around from several temporary locations for their meetings until settling in on their permanent home that you just saw us visit at 624 Taylor Street in downtown San Francisco's Nob Hill neighborhood. That building, like you just saw, is a 6-story red brick fortress fitted with 2 dining rooms, a lounge, an art gallery, a game room, a barbershop, and a theater. It also includes 20 guest rooms where members can stay overnight, as well as 6 meeting and banquet rooms. From the outside, like you just saw, the building looks mostly average, but at a closer glance, it bears some interesting artistic decor. The outside of the building is replete with metal bas-reliefs of owls that watch all who pass by. This owl, chosen as a symbol of the club, is bordered by the words, "Weaving spiders come not here." The phrase was taken from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream and means that business and politics are to be put aside during club meetings so that members can take their time to enjoy relaxation in this moment of reprieve from their stressful lives. You'll see that that is not what happens there as we continue. As time went on, the foundation of the club has changed from simply a place to discuss art or literature, though, run by artists and authors, into something altogether different. Businessmen and politicians had begun to enter the mix, and the club eventually exploded to what it is today, a list of 2,600 members, with waiting lists at some points over 30 years long. The Bohemian Club has a simple website, with its homepage stating the following: The Bohemian Club is a private association whose members shall consist of gentlemen who are connected professionally with literature, art, music, or the drama, and also those gentlemen who, by reason of their demonstrated love or appreciation of these subjects, their temperament, intellect, and their commitment to participate in club activities, make them worthy companions in artistic fellowship. You can see right here, talking about the owl and the spider web. Here's a cup from Bohemian Grove, and on it, this is from the actual grove itself, and it says, "Weaving spiders come not here." You can see there is a buckle, there's some symbolism there, the owl, and then BC for the Bohemian Club. This is an interesting relic straight from the Grove, and this is just the first object that we're going to be talking about. People can actually apply to work at Bohemian Grove and at the clubhouse, as the website offers a host of positions for those qualified. However, some former employees state that only men can work in certain positions, and there's a reason for that we're going to talk about. There is no application for membership on the site, however. There's only a link to a Contact Us page and a reference to a sizable waiting list for membership. It seems that one must be invited to join the Bohemian Club. In fact, that's actually how it is. You can't just apply, you can't just buy your way in. You not only have to be invited into the club, but you have to have members vouch for you. Then you have a vetting process, and then maybe at the end of the day, you'll be lucky to join those 2,600 men that are Bohemians. Some of the notable members of the Bohemian Club in the current era were Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, who said some pretty harsh things about the club, Bill Clinton, and both George Bushes, father and son. Interestingly, the Bushes have been members of secret societies for quite a long time, with 4 generations of the family being involved in Yale's Skull and Crossbones group, whose members are rumored to be practitioners of the occult. Definitely you should look into the Skull and Crossbones on your own. The stealing of Geronimo's skull, the worshiping, the stuff that they do in that secret society, very, very disturbing. But that's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about the Grove. And interestingly, here's something that I'll point out. Here's the first document we can talk about that I've gotten my hands on. This is a legitimate old flyer from the Bohemian Club. Here's what it reads. Bohemian George Bush, new director of the Central Intelligence Agency, will speak at a members-only luncheon at the club on Tuesday, April 27th at noon. His subject, the CIA, today and tomorrow. So the Bohemian Club, like we just talked about, they make this big thing about how there's no business, no government, no nothing happening at Bohemian Grove. Weaving spiders come not here, or they don't want work being intermixed with this relaxation, the blowing off of steam. And yet you have right here a document that they don't want you to see that says that George H.W. Bush is going to be at the Bohemian Club speaking about the CIA. He's going to be telling these other Bohemians, these other people that are in high places in the government and in the business world and in the entertainment industry, he's going to be giving a speech about the Central Intelligence Agency. Now, if you don't know what the CIA does, man, that is a long tangent. It involves assassinations, drug running child sex rings, and running pedophile rings. The CIA is one of the most crooked organizations to ever exist. And that's only the stuff we know that the CIA does. We don't even know a half of what the CIA actually is doing behind our backs. It's like the shadow CIA, the shadow government. So I thought this document was interesting, showing that George H.W. Bush was going to tell all of the Bohemians, the people he's supposedly not talking to government about and not sharing secrets with, a whole dissertation on the CIA while he is the director of the CIA. Keep that in mind. Bohemian Grove itself has a sinister reputation nowadays, and it has had that reputation for many years, as secret societies are apt to cultivate. The rumors mostly surround Bohemian Grove's Bohemian Grove event, which is supposedly essentially a frat party for the wealthy elite. Business Insider called it a way for rich men to relive their college days in a fluff piece. They said essentially it's a place where U.S. politicians, military leaders, artists, and business magnates all meet up to let go of their worldly troubles and relive their early 20s with heavy drinking and partying. They report that the site hosts over 100 separate camps, all bearing strange names such as Mandalay, Lost Angels, Silverado Squatters, and Isle of Aves. That's right, when you get to Bohemian Grove, actually, here's a map. Let's put that up on the screen now. This is an original map from Bohemian Grove. It's very large. As you're looking on screen, this is a cartoony layout of the Grove itself. But you can see there are all these really bizarre, strange names of camps in here. And all this stuff is symbolic. All this stuff has meaning behind it. That's why it's so bizarre. Like, they didn't just pick out these names and say like, oh, we're just gonna name this Goofy Town and this is Stupidville. You know what I mean? Like, these names have some sort of symbolism or meaning. There's Sleepy Hollow, there's Pig and Whistle, Moonshiners, Roaring, the Rattlers. There are camps the Son of Toil, the Sons of Rest, Snog Harbor, Four Peak, Redfire, Five Easy Pieces, the Land of Happiness, Tarrytown, the Wayside Log. Some of these I don't even understand. Like there's also mystical stuff like Druids, Halcyon, Valhalla, Oz, Land's End, Lookout Mountain, Last Chance, Sun Dodgers. All these camps you could really get into and dive into exactly what they mean. But you can see, once again, if you look on screen, there's the entrance gate, and then this whole thing just kind of expands in the huge, massive reach. And only God knows exactly what the hell, how accurate this map is. I'm sure there are hidden things that they don't even publish on these maps that they don't want people knowing about that are here. Some of the other names on that map are things like Idlewild, Hillbillies, and the Hillbillies is the camp that the Bush family belongs to. Each camp at Bohemian Grove is organized by which artistic avocation each member subscribes to, so that like minds can camp in peace. If you're a singer, you'll be in a certain camp. If you're a musician or a painter, you'll be in a certain camp. If you're a politician, you'll be in a certain camp. They're all organized. At least that's what they tell us. And that's their explanation for those bizarre names. Other facilities there at the Bohemian Grove include an indoor gathering room, an artist's studio gallery, nature museum, a firehouse, an infirmary, an administration building, a maintenance and support building, and the Bernard Maybeck designed chalet, which was built in 1904 and serves as Bohemian Grove's clubhouse. The main attraction of the camp, though, is the main stage, where entertainment presentations, or jinks as they call them, take place. Most notably the performances High Jinks and Low Jinks, which are club staples. Interestingly, as you'll see on some of these documents that I've got right here, you can see I got this document from 2023. I'm going to call some of the numbers in here later in this. This is the jinks, the spring jinks, and we'll kind of thumb through this. And you can see, looking at all of this, there are just so many strange words and codes in this. But this is 2023, so this is last year's Spring Jinx event playbook, essentially. This is for Grove members only. And let's read this at the very beginning. Important behavior in the Grove. A member or guest who conducts himself in a manner unbecoming of a gentleman may be expelled from the Grove by order of the Grove captain, or in his absence, by any member of the board of directors of the Grove committee. Harassment or offensive behavior of any kind is strictly prohibited. Members and guests are cautioned not to reprimand employees, report any incident or discourtesy or inattentiveness to the general manager or management staff. Here are the things that they say you have to do. Gentlemanly behavior at all times. Enjoy, share, and participate. Never be the problem, be the solution. Take responsibility for yourself and guests. Lend support to your camp captain. Expect and respect privacy. What are they being private about without phones? Make sure all staff are treated with respect. Appreciate the gifts of others. Never forget, we are all guests in the Grove. Just really weird shit. And then it says, big letters. Prohibitions on use of cell phones, smartwatches, electronic devices, and posting in special media. Electronic communication devices are not permitted in the Grove at any time, except in a power-off condition and stored in a parked vehicle or luggage. Computers, laptops, smartwatches, and electronic handheld devices are prohibited as well, unless used in connection with a Grove activity and specifically approved in writing by either the Jinx Committee Chairman or the Grove Committee Chairman. Cell phones and other electronic devices with a camera, video, or recording function are also not permitted in the Grove. Smartwatches may not be worn in the Grove at any time, except by those requiring their use for medical reasons, provided they have received prior written permission from the Grove Committee Chair or Grove Captain. Yeah, they are like incredibly strict about having phones in there. Apparently there's a shooting range at the Grove they talk about here, bringing guns into Bohemian Grove. And then there's like all this weird stuff. There's trap and skeet shooting, grill bar by the Chit, there's an organ concert, a campfire circle, let the good times soul, fingers snap, the fire crackles, the bass pops, all is well with the world. Find your midsummer groove early this year at the campfire circle with an all-star review. Then there's some faculty people, then afterglow in the grill, all these different things. There's magic outside of the grill, lakeside talk. There's a show at the museum stage with a tribute to the guitar gods. There's a field circle show. Join us for this season's kickoff extravaganza. There's another campfire circle, down home humor, heapy helpings of country music, Uncle Dickie's country comedy cabaret, funny men come together. There's more afterglow. Then you've got stuff like more trap and skeet shooting. Then you've got something called rim rides, first come, first served. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. There's more magic. There's all this stuff that we're going to talk about with magic that they do. And then Saturday, June 10th, orchestra concert at the Grove Stage, Country Love. There's a lot of country stuff here, Rockin' the Redwoods. Hard to believe that all day that these men are camping out there on Saturday, June 10th. Yeah, there's just a lot of really weird stuff that's going on here. And then as you can see in some of this stuff, they seem to have had like a rock and roll type theme this year. Then there's like a notebook in the back of this. And then I don't know what this is, but this is like this person's private notes that I got this from. I don't know what the hell all of this means. All these numbers and letters, like soul at campfire. And what is this? Like 9 soul show, 8 hermits, and then Saturday, the monastery. And this is just one of the books. This is just one of the books. Like I said, I have all of these books going back. Some of these are from the 90s. And this isn't even the Bohemian Grove itself, but they're all the same. Let's take a look. Like, I've got these from 2002. You can see still that owl as a centerpiece. Then you've got the 2015 Bohemian Grove book with the owl and the people doing this ritual. 2008, it's got kind of a cute little painting theme, no owl. 2007, you can see the owls down there. Like, they're the very center of all of this shit is this owl. It's in like the everything that they've put out and published. But here's the 2009 Midsummer Encampment from Bohemian Grove. So this is the main event that we've been talking about here in the summer. Once again, at the front, you've got cell phones, personal digital assistants, laptops, video equipment, radios, recording devices, CD players, iPods, Kindles, any electronic devices, all caps, are not permitted in the Grove at any time. Yeah, it's interesting. They say this book is exclusive to the use of members and their guests, publication, sale, or distribution. So they're banning people from selling these. That worked really well. It looks like they don't want people to talk about this shit. But let's take a look real quick at this. All right, so let's look at some symbolism. You can see no spiders, that little symbol right there. Thursday, July 9th, settle in, start a fire, cocktails, and dining in camp. Then you got the first day with that owl symbol that I'm sure means more than I can even interpret right now. Then you flip to Friday, July 10th. Same thing, they got rim rides going on here. Afternoon with Robert Frost. New members reception at Pig and Whistle. The other members are going to help you acclimate. Strange. Then the Grove opening ceremony, the Owl Shrine at 6 p.m. We kick off our midsummer festivities by lighting the lamp of fellowship at the Owl Shrine and placing Vanderlyn Stowe's axe in its hallowed place at Campfire Circle. Everybody goes to that thing. They have an organ concert in the middle of the woods. They're doing all this shit. Scattered leaves. I don't know what all this stuff means. I mean, nobody really does. But then you got Saturday, July 11th. They have a museum talk, the robotics revolution going on around us. A talk by the professor of robotics at MIT. Once again, they're saying that they don't do business or anything like that at the Grove, but Then you got an old guard cocktail party, how the West was swung, all these like parties and things going on. The cremation of care. Are you really ready to slay dull care, murder dull care, and to come as little children who believe? O beauty's vassals, enter the owl's leafy temple and lend your fellowship as the priests conjure up the spirits of the forest. Seek the great owl's adjuration and cremate dull care once again. We're going to talk about what that means in a moment, but you can see even right here, there's this really bizarre drawing on there with these like shadow demon priests and the owl burning torches. Anyways, we could go through all this stuff for hours, and it's really bizarre, and a lot of it doesn't make sense unless you really know what's going on. But I've read through all these books, and there's a lot of coded language, a lot of weird shit that sounds innocuous that we know isn't. But anyways, let's get back to this. So between the main stage of Bohemian Grove and the enormous seating area, a small man-made pond creates a boundary for viewers to watch performances. I've actually got a photograph right here. I don't know if these photographs have ever really been published before, but right here I've got an old picture of Bohemian Grove from what I believe this is 1906. This is the men in 1906. There appears to be a drawing of a demon guy, a painting of a demon hanging up on the tree right there. I don't know what all this stuff is. There's like a hanging weight that looks like it's got an owl above it up on the tree. These men are all around this fire. I don't know what the hell they're doing. There's probably some famous faces from back in that day in this photograph, but there's a lot of weird stuff to analyze in this picture. And then, like I was just describing in the script, in the center of Bohemian Grove, there's this lake, kind of man-made lake, reservoir pond thing, and there's a big amphitheater where there are hundreds, thousands of seats. And then at the very front, there is an owl statue, and that's where they do this yearly play performance called the Cremation of Care. And as you can see, this is another original photograph that I came into possession of, which is from 1952, which shows people in front of that owl statue. This appears to be a band of some sort playing some music, but yeah, they're out in the middle of the woods at Bohemian Grove, and that big ass owl is right behind them. And that owl is going to be the center point of a lot of controversy and conspiracy surrounding Bohemian Grove. I don't think you guys who don't know what Bohemian Grove is, pictures of Bohemian Grove are insanely hard to find because, like I just read to you, they don't allow any recording, any video. So even just getting a hold of these photographs of this band playing the Cremation of Care area and these people celebrating out there around a bonfire, those things are like supposed to not exist according to the club. They don't want that stuff getting out. So yeah, I know they're gonna love this video. The performances that they put on in that little area with the pond and the owl are made solely by men, with some sources stating that men occasionally play the parts traditionally played by women. Now this is another point I'm going to talk about. Since nobody knows what happens at Bohemian Grove and they've kept it very secret, I want to present to you this photograph. I don't know who the men are in this picture. This is an original photograph from Bohemian Grove that I got from somebody who was a very reputable source. I'm not going to expose the people I got these materials from. I've gone really deep in this investigation. But as you can see right here, these are all older looking men dressed up in what appears to be drag, wearing a dress, a skirt. They've all got makeup on. And when you consider that a lot of the men that are here at these events, like the men that are on this list right here of Bohemian Grove in 1998, including former presidents like the Bushes, there have been a lot of Republicans in Bohemian Grove. And I'm not making this video political at all, but it is interesting because a lot of these same politicians who on the outside to the outside world are saying that they don't like drag queens and they want to take down the pride flags, and they're really vocal about how much they hate that sort of culture. It's very interesting to me that there are photographs of those same men that are here participating in dressing in drag and, like I just said, performing the parts of women in plays. These are the same men that will say to major news outlets they think drag queens and drag shows should be shut down and drag queens should be arrested, and yet here they are at Bohemian Grove. Whether or not they're actually dressing up themselves in drag, that doesn't matter, because clearly when they're here at the Grove, they're laughing at this, they're enjoying it, and they are taking part in the whole thing. Yeah, these photographs are never before seen. No one's ever seen this stuff, and it shows that American politics is just one big show and one big lie. But yeah, back to the stage. So atop that stage in the center of Bohemian Grove is a 40-foot tall owl statue, which watches all those before it as performances and ceremonies take place. And in front of that owl is a stone altar which rises above a platform. Some sources state that women and minors are allowed on the premises by day, but at night, only adult men are allowed on the grounds. So people ask many questions as to why only men are permitted to be there after dark, but there are so many more rumors that surround the Bohemian Grove above questions of misogyny. Some tales from the Grove are political in nature, as one rumor states that in 1942, a meeting was held at Bohemian Grove by the members of the Manhattan Project, later leading to the development of the atomic bomb. That's never been confirmed, but people believe that the plans for the atomic bomb were made amongst the trees at Bohemian Grove. Other rumors abound that the club is a far-right republic group meant to organize world politics. People think that this is where the New World Order meets, where people meet up to make plans to control the world. But others argue that there are more sinister things going on. The 2-week retreat held in the latter part of July each year, called Bohemian Grove, includes stage performances and camaraderie and drinking, but it also strangely includes rituals like the Cremation of Care, an effigy burning ceremony that starts the club's festivities on the first weekend of the event. The Cremation of Care takes place on the main stage at the foot of that 40-foot owl and altar. And that's where, like I said, that's where this bizarre ceremony takes place. So the Cremation of Care is the most infamous part of Bohemian Grove, and we're gonna dissect it. I have right here, I have some original programs from the Cremation of Care. This one is from 1977. And as you can see, I mean, this is a pretty evil looking illustration. It's like an owl watching the world burn right before its very eyes. Definitely doesn't look like a happy event or something overtly positive. On the inside, you can see the names of people that participated in this. I know that in different years, Different celebrities and men have been honored to take part in the ceremony. Like, I know the Bushes have played parts in this play. I know that people like Clint Eastwood have had parts to play in this. But if you guys recognize any of these names, be sure to let me know. I've also got this program from the Cremation of Care, which you'll notice once again features that owl guy. Here are some more names. There's some people on these lists that you will recognize. But it's interesting, the symbolism behind all this stuff. When it comes to secret societies and groups like this, they are all about their symbolism and sneaking in little things. And then you've got right here, which is another really strange program. This is from the Cremation of Care. What year is it? 1989. And interestingly, if you look on the actual symbol, it looks like devil horns on the R. And then it's a strange symbol that looks evil. I mean, if they're trying to not look evil, they're doing a terrible job because this looks very evil. And then you've got, once again, a list of all the people involved in all of this stuff. And then look at this. July 15th, 1989, you can see the voice of the owl in the Cremation of Care play, The Ritual, was performed by Walter Cronkite that year. There's some actual evidence right there. Walter Cronkite did it in 1989. It's interesting to look at who the voice of the owl is, because that's kind of the most prestigious part of this play. There was Glenn J. Ash in 1988. I don't recognize that name. Probably somebody that you guys will know. And then let's even go back to 1977. Who was the voice of the owl in 77? J. Robert Christie. I don't know that name either, but you guys probably do. Let's talk about this Cremation of Care. At twilight, robed figures carry an effigy of what supposedly represents the dull care of everyday life. That effigy is then placed at the base of that massive stone owl as a part of this Cremation of Care ceremony, and the owl begins to speak. Hidden speakers placed around the owl deliver a speech. And this speech has been recorded and delivered by US presidents, by powerful business people. There you go, Walter Cronkite. It's like an esteemed thing to deliver this speech. As night falls, that effigy, which represents a dead body, is set on fire, which is a representation of the wealthy elite who are there in attendance at Bohemian Grove, burning away their troubles. As the effigy burns, the night erupts into cheers, with pyrotechnics and performances taking place immediately afterwards. Some liken this to a mock human sacrifice, a disturbing rumor made only more strange as the participants in this performance or ritual wear dark robes and hoods. So I recently got a copy of Alex Jones's Bohemian Grove documentary. I brought it into a professional here in Houston, Texas, who transferred it for me. So we're going to be presenting you with some of the footage of the Cremation of Care that Alex Jones published decades ago. And you can see in the footage, it looks evil. They try to say that it's playful and lighthearted. No, it looks strictly evil. A different rumor surrounds the security detail of Bohemian Grove. You see, the club employs significant security contracted out by Sonoma County. Some have said that intruders are shot on sight and killed if they try to sneak in. Perhaps partly due to rumors, the Bohemian Club has faced a lot of backlash over the years. For example, women's rights activists and the Sonoma County government have considered pulling out of their security detail with the Bohemian Club, as women are not allowed to join the retreat in full, and some consider it supporting a misogynistic boys' club. You see, women are allowed to become honorary members of the Bohemian Club, and sometimes they're allowed to enter the clubhouse at Nob Hill, but entry into the Bohemian Grove after nightfall is strictly prohibited for women. Protesters frequently demonstrate outside of the event, with anti-capitalists and environmentalists gathering outside the boundaries to press for the politicians to make moves on behalf of their agendas. Newspapers in the area report that the protests have decreased over time. Many people, though, have raised questions about the gathering over the years, such as why they conduct this effigy burning ritual, and why men wearing dark hooded cloaks conduct it. The fact that some have stated that these robes are reminiscent of the KKK has caused even greater concern. You see, while most people believe that this event is merely a frat party for the wealthy elite, others have taken a critical look at what goes on in the Redwoods by night. In the past, people have spread rumors of darker rituals than just an effigy burning, such as real human sacrifice, transporting a corpse across the pond near the effigy, massive orgies, and snuff films created during the sacrificial ritual. And you can't forget pedophilia. Meanwhile, though, the Bohemian Club website only says that the Grove hosts more than 100 entertainment events produced and performed by members, including concerts by the club's symphony orchestra, concert band, jazz orchestra, and chorus. Theatrical performances, both dramatic and musical, recitals, readings, lectures, art exhibits, plus outdoor pursuits such as swimming, canoeing, hiking, trap and skeet shooting, and nature studies. The Bohemian Grove website further speaks of the Low Jinks, an original musical comedy performed by club members, and the Grove Play, an original play of serious intent. That's their description. Journalists have tried to enter the gathering many times to find out the truth, but only Spy Magazine and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones seem to have been able to. Well, besides from the guy who I talked to for this video, who recently broke into Bohemian Grove and has been targeted by the Bohemian Club in the aftermath. So, back in the day, Alex Jones, before he had started down the path that he's been on, he was obsessed with exposing government corruption and conspiracies like Bohemian Grove. And initially, he called the article written on Bohemian Grove and published by Spy Magazine a shill, or rather a distraction meant to detract from the true and disturbing nature of the Bohemian Club. The article in question, written by Philip Weiss in November of 1989, begins by taking anecdotes from Henry Kissinger, former U.S. Secretary of State, who passed in late 2023. Also a piece of shit. He reported jazz concerts, bird watching, and rope tricks, but he also rattled off important names, like U.S. Treasury Secretary of the time Nick Brady, Los Angeles Times publisher Tom Johnson, and Shankar Bajpai, a former ambassador to the United States. He said they were all in attendance that year. The Grove also hosted Russian physicist Roald Sagdiyev, who had been a member of the Soviet Supreme Council of People's Deputies. The author of that article, Philip Weiss, also reported more important names that were in attendance, including the Prime Minister of France, the former Secretaries of State, the chairman of Archer Daniels Midland, Dwayne Andreas, Merv Griffin, and David Rockefeller. Weiss takes a very lighthearted look at the club's activities, stating, "The religion the attendees consecrate is right-wing, laissez-faire, and quintessentially Western, with some druid tree worship thrown in for fun. The often bizarre rites have elevated what was once a provincial club for San Franciscans embarrassed by the rude manners of the Wild West into the most exclusive club in the United States, with 2,300 members drawn from the whole of the American establishment and a waiting list 33 years long." Indeed, it seems like the Bohemian Club, from Weiss's perspective, is simply a spot for the wealthy and refined to relax and enjoy the arts, as well as a frat boy atmosphere where men drink to excess and enjoy each other's company. Many of the articles about the Grove also make a point to note, strangely, that the attendees urinate freely on the Grove grounds. Now, Weiss goes on to discuss how it was a haven for Republicans, a primary watering hole for the important names of the party. According to Weiss, the Bohemian Club presidents formally summon the members to the Grove each summer with these words, quote, "Brother Bohemians, the sun is once again in the clutches of the lion, and the encircling season bids us to the forest, there to celebrate the awful mysteries. Bohemians come, find home again in the Grove, burn care and hurl his ashes, whirling, from our glade. Come out, Bohemians, come out and play. Come with all the buoyant, impetuous rush of youth." U.S. presidents and business magnates getting invitations like that and actually going to it. I mean, that is just some weird shit. I've never been invited to a party that's like, "Brother Colin, please come attend our sun ritual worship event in the midst of the woods where we shall burn the corpse of our anger and toss it to the wind." Like, what the f***? Anyways, that just made me go like, what the f***? With that invitation's obvious reference to the sun being in the house of Leo according to astrology, perhaps the Bohemian Grove and the Bohemian Club is more openly into the metaphysical than Weiss, the author of that article, would like to admit. Now, Weiss states that he infiltrated the club with no great amount of difficulty and found a bunch of older men wrapped up in politics and the arts, but his first experience was the cremation of care ritual. Weiss says that he sat down next to a man who was confiding in a companion beside him. He told the companion that his friends didn't understand this, that if they could see it, they'd know how terrific it was. He said it was better than sex, that it's more than it's cracked up to be, and that you couldn't describe it. Moments later, the massive crowd that was gathered to witness the cremation of care hushed, and Weiss describes that a column of hooded figures emerged, carrying torches, solemnly bearing a corpse down to the pond between the stage and the seating area. Naturally, Weiss says to clarify that this wasn't a real corpse, only a fake corpse meant to symbolize the dull cares that the men in power and wealth often face. But others believe that the body within the crypt may not have been an effigy at all, Some believe that at Bohemian Grove, a real human body is sacrificed to the massive stone owl, who one man claimed is none other than the ancient pagan god Moloch. And now we get into Alex Jones and the real exposing of Bohemian Grove. So, Alex Jones, joined by members of British television, infiltrated Bohemian Grove in July of 2000. Alex Jones has always claimed to be an activist for the people, wanting to expose the world government that is conspiring against them. A well-known conspiracy theorist, Alex Jones looked back through history to discuss the club's origins and their mysteries. One of the first things he discusses in the documentary is the massive 40-foot stone owl statue, which he and others claim represents the ancient pagan god Moloch. You see, according to the Bohemian Club, the owl is meant to symbolize wisdom and companionship. This seems like a great symbol for a club allegedly about camaraderie and a discussion of the arts. But could it be that this owl actually represents a god to which the ancient people would sacrifice children? More on that later on. Alex Jones in his documentary claimed that the men of the original Bohemian Club, all men of art and intellectualism, created the club to get away from the backwardness of the West Coast, which he claims meant Judeo-Christian ethics. Alex states that the annals of the Bohemian Club admit an obsession with the occult, as well as druidic rituals, some of which inspired the cremation of care ceremony. He also contends that many rich and powerful men in our government and military are members of this club. And I have proof of this. I will post this so everybody can read it. This is a 1998 list of the camps and camp members, key locations. You can see right here, this is a full-on legit map of Bohemian Grove. You can see those camp names are listed out. Once again, you got all this weird shit like the Medicine Lodge, the Owl's Nest, Caveman Trail, Valley of the Moon, Edge Hill, Owlers, Powwow, all these weird camp names. You've got all these camp names with all the people who are attending there. And then you've got a list of the members that were there that year. Right here on the list, you see under R, we've got Ronald Reagan was in attendance that year, and he was in the Owl's Nest camp. So if we isolate that here, that means Reagan was with Dr. Arthur Norman Thomas, Eddie Albert, David L. Anderson, Robert J. Arthur, Norman Barker Jr., Walter H. Bunker, William Carter, Charles E. Cobb Jr., Mike B. Corbett, Jim Cullum, Donald R. Dixon, David Richmond Gergen, Harry Gray, Robert Hancock, Charles Newell Huggins, Murray Carter Hunnicky, a bunch of different names. I don't know any of these people. Please comment if you know any of them. Then if you look at the B's here, that same year in attendance, you can see George H.W. Bush was there in the Hillbillies camp. I'll post a little thing. Oh, Walter Cronkite was in that camp. George H. Bush is in that camp. Donald Rumsfeld. There's a lot of people in that camp. But I'm going to post this full thing so you can go verify for yourself that I'm not lying, that government officials, I mean, this whole list, I'm sure there's so many celebrities and people you would recognize. I don't even know where to start. There's like so many. But anyways, so you have U.S. presidents here being involved with occult rituals that are sacrificing fake children to cremate their care. And you have all these alleged and dressing up in drag and performing women's parts, and Republican presidents who are kind of against that stuff openly, probably doing that stuff behind the scenes in the trees. So there's proof that there are military members and powerful people in the club. But let's get back to Alex Jones. He states in his documentary that in order to ascend to the higher level of the geopolitical landscape, you must first join and be indoctrinated into the Bohemian Club and its druidic rituals. If you don't know what druidic is that I keep talking about, the Druids were like a mystical people in the United Kingdom area in Europe in the medieval days, and they were really into magic, and that's a whole tangent you can go on, but druidic magic and rituals are like a favorite thing amongst the world's elite. But Alex is basically claiming that in order to ascend in the world and gain power, you have to buy into Bohemian Grove and you have to take part in these rituals that these other powerful men are making you do. And as an example of that, Alex claims that Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan was seen leaving the Bohemian Grove Summer Festival only a month before he was appointed to his lofty position. So were those decisions made based on his attendance at Bohemian Grove? I'd like to think so, but what am I? I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Alex then continues by claiming that the Federal Reserve has been run by members of the Bohemian Club since its inception in 1913, and that the most powerful bank in the country is part of this massive New World Order hidden within the grove of redwoods. One article by the New York Times reported that Alan Sproul, a former head of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, was indeed a member of the Bohemian Club, but Alex Jones insists that many high-ranking officials in the Federal Reserve are members of the Bohemian Club, even if that information isn't public. He also asserts that the Manhattan Project, the project that led to the devastating events of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings via the creation of nuclear weapons, was planned, run, and executed from within Bohemian Grove. So Alex even goes as far as to claim that the people who carried out that bombing operation watched all of it happen and gave the orders for it to happen from within the Bohemian Grove campground. He even goes on to say that he believes that the Grove is a place where men of the Bohemian Club engage in bizarre ancient Canaanite Luciferian rituals. But who are these rich, powerful men, presidents, leaders of the CIA, billionaires? Who are they worshiping in these rituals at Bohemian Grove? Well, that's when we get to Moloch, the owl god, who people claim is represented by that 40-foot stone owl at the center of the grove. So Alex himself did research on the figure of Moloch, which is mentioned many times in the Christian text of the Bible and is in fact associated with human sacrifice. But not only human sacrifice, specifically the sacrificing of children by fire. Keep in mind, in Bohemian Grove's Cremation of Care that we've talked about many times, which they say is just a fun little play that they like to put on, they are burning the effigy of a child's body. And Moloch, the owl god, people used to sacrifice children to Moloch by burning them alive. Unable to conceive why these power brokers, high-ranking men in our government and finance sector would worship this figure, Alex decided to infiltrate Bohemian Grove and see what was actually happening. Upon arriving in Monte Rio, Alex Jones and his crew began to interview locals. The first person they met, after saying he worked in Bohemian Grove for a while, immediately began to walk away after being asked if he had witnessed the cremation of care ritual. Another resident said that he was driving by one of the outer camps of the grove and was stopped by Secret Service members. When the Secret Service approached his vehicle, they began interrogating the resident about his intentions, requesting his name and his address, and asking why he was so close to the campsite. Another resident of the town claimed that the men in the grove brought prostitutes into the woods with them, both female and male prostitutes. And many of the town's members had different stories about the FBI having infested the town at one point, but no one seemed to know anything about the actual rituals happening themselves. Finally, on July 15th, 2000, the time came to infiltrate Bohemian Grove itself. After sneaking into the main parking lot past the first set of security gates, Alex and a colleague began their trek into the event area. He states that he was questioned by security multiple times, and whenever confronted, he would simply say that he was with the Hillbillies, the group to which the Bush family belonged. And yeah, like I said earlier, this is actually a gate pass from Bohemian Grove. You can see right here, Bohemian Grove, Monte Rio, California. Gate pass for Mr. There's no Mrs., just Mr. here, which is interesting. And it makes you wonder who this belonged to, what they used it for. Just an interesting visual representation of the secrecy of the Grove. But back to Alex Jones infiltrating the Grove. Since he and his friends had Texas accents like those of the Bush family and friends, the people at Bohemian Grove believed that this would actually let them in. Not only was Alex Jones able to get into the compound with a hidden camera, but he was able to videotape the actual grounds themselves. While videotaping the Bohemian Grove, multiple signs with morbid motifs can be observed. They're words written in Latin and other languages. I mean, it's really bizarre. You can see these skulls and these like really weird phrases and totems and strange ritualistic things that are everywhere all over the campgrounds. Alex also got a decently clear shot of the 40-foot stone owl, a dark figure coated with moss and leaves. And before that stone owl, as you can see, stands something like a raised stone altar, and atop it, the eternal flame, a fire pit lit during the cremation of care ceremony that burns for the duration of the retreat. The entire scene and all of that footage from Alex Jones is eerie and overgrown. I mean, there's moss and ferns everywhere, and it feels kind of evil. And while the rest of the grounds are pristine, the altar and owl statue are left to grow over with foliage. And later on at dusk, Alex and his colleague witnessed the cremation of care ritual. So every year before this cremation of care ritual, they say it's a play, we all know it's a ritual. Before that begins, the members of the club attend a massive feast at the main dining area. and then afterwards they head to the lakeside. It can be assumed that these cups are some of the cups used at this feast. Alex Jones somehow obtained a program from the ritual, whose front page bears the massive stone owl before a pit of fire. Alex then points out what he calls a small demon on the cover of the program, named PJ. It appears to be a small stick figure with horns holding up a broom and dustpan, sweeping up something that needs to be thrown away. More disturbingly, in the fire that burns before the owl, there appears to be an illustrated burning human body. It isn't a grown human body, however, and it appears to the viewer, and it appears to me, to be the body of a child. The skull is large in comparison with the rest of the body, as are the hands, and indeed at first glance, it mimics the skeletal remains of a child. Now, why would politicians and businessmen, prominent figures, people that are running our world and our country, why would they take part in a ritual, even if it is a play? Why would they take part in something whose programs are illustrated with small drawings of demons and the burning body of a small child? It's bizarre. Then, in his documentary, Alex shows the footage recovered of the cremation of care ritual, and it's as disturbing as it sounds. In the footage, men in dark robes that look like those worn by KKK members, are carried into the event area by a carriage and marched in a column before it. As the robed figures walk towards the altar before the stone owl, they carry torches with them to the tune of a bagpipe crying a funeral march. The club members then begin to clap. The bagpipes transform into solemn classical music, and this plays for approximately 10 minutes before the robed men close in on the altar. Alex Jones allegedly contacted occult experts, and they all reported that what he witnessed that night may truly have been a sacrificial ritual, according to all he was about to see and hear. So in the footage, the men in robes near the altar, and a bell is rang, and a speaker in white, the high priest, delivers the following words. And these are the words they say every single year. Quote, "The owl is in his leafy temple. Let all within the grove be reverent before him. Lift up your hands, O ye trees, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting spires. For behold, here is Bohemia's shrine, and holy are the pillars of this house." A bell rings once more as the speaker bows to the spectators across the pond. He finishes his intonations with, "Weaving spiders come not here." The bell rings again, and he walks off stage. In the footage, the men in dark robes then approach the altar, and another voice rises above the crowd. The speech it gives is sown with strange phrases and references to friends who have passed on joining the crowd from beyond the grave. It mentions Babylon, one of the cities most steeped in occultism, and Tyre, a city that faced holy wrath for rebelling against God according to the Judeo-Christian texts. This voice goes on to mention spell work, possibly in metaphor. However, with so many true references to occultism, it can't be certain. This voice calls the event to which all of these powerful men are attending the ancient Druidic festival of Midsummer, a festival of dancing, bonfires, and heavy drinking. Finally, though, the most disturbing portion of the speech comes when concerning the similarities of the owl in front of the group to Moloch, and it ends with a metaphor of children coming before nature, a reference to the camp of Bohemian Grove. The speech proclaims, quote, "Hail Bohemians, with the ripple of waters, the sound of birds, such music as inspires the sinking soul, do we invite you to midsummer's joy. The sky above is blue and sown with stars. The forest floor is heaped with fragrant grit. The evening's cool kiss is yours. The campfires glow, the birth of rosy-fingered dawn. Shake off your sorrows with the city's dust, and cast to the winds the cares of life. But memories bring back the well-loved names of gallant friends who knew and loved this grove, dear boon companions of long ago. Ay, let them join us in this ritual, and not a place be empty in our minds. All of his battles to hold in this gray autumn of the world, or in the springtime of your heart, attend our tale. Gather ye forest folk, and cast your spell over these mortals. Touch their world-blind eyes with carrion. Open their eyes to fancy. Follow the memories of yesterday, and seal the gates of sorrow. It is a dream, and yet not all a dream. Dull care in all its works harbored it. As vanished Babylon and goodly Tyre, so shall they also vanish. But the wilding rose blows on the broken battlements of Tyre, and moss rends the stones of Babylon. For beauty is eternal, and we bow to beauty everlasting. For lasting happiness, we turn to one alone, as she surrounds you now, great nature, refuge of the weary heart. And only found her breasts that had been bruised. She has cool hands for every fevered brow, and dreadless silence for the troubled soul. Her counsels are most wise. She healeth well, having such ministries as calm and sleep. She is ever faithful. Other friends may fail, but seek ye her in any quiet place, smiling, she will rise and give to you her kiss. So must ye come as children, little children that believe don't ever doubt her beauty or her faith, nor deem her tenderness can change or die. End quote. So that's the whole weird f***ing speech with all of those coded religious references and bizarre references. And references of children and everything, obviously. And as that speech ends, the white-robed man meets with a man robed in black, and the ritual begins as solemn music plays. Another recording plays as the ritual begins that goes, quote, "Bohemians and priests, the desperate call of heavy hearts is answered by the power of your fellowship. Dull care is slain." End quote. As those words are said, the crowd goes up in cheers and applause, and the speech continues. Quote, "His body has been brought yonder to our funeral pyre to the joyous pipings of a funeral march. Our funeral pyre awaits the corpse of care." End quote. More music continues as the effigy, the corpse of care, is brought forward. Solemn music is played on woodwinds and brass for the crowd, and people laugh as, riding across the lake in a fog, a boatman with his face painted to appear as a skull brings a bound body, supposedly only an effigy, across the lake and towards the stone altar. Now, as he narrates in his documentary, Alex Jones wishes that those watching the documentary would be able to pick up all of the occult references that they are about to hear in the following speeches. In the ritual, the voice then echoes again across those watching the ritual, saying, quote, "O thou, thus ferried across the shadowy tide, in all the ancient majesty of death, dull care, ardent enemy of beauty, not for thee the tender forgiveness or the restful grave. Fire shall have its will of thee, and all the winds make merry with thy dust." The voice then shouts, "Bring fire!" and the crowd erupts into cheers once again. More men in robes then bring forth a burning flame in a pit, and more robed men with them carry torches. The effigy is then laid atop the altar, and loud laughter erupts from the sidelines of the event. A voice then shouts from the woods, the voice of the effigy or corpse of dull care. "Fools! Fools! Fools! When will ye learn that me ye cannot slay? Year after year ye burn me in this grove, lifting your puny shouts of triumph to the stars. When again ye turn your faces to the marketplace, do ye not find me waiting as of old? Fools! Fools! Fools to dream ye conquer care." End quote. The first voice, the voice that called the men to attend the ritual, the high priest, then speaks up over the voice of the corpse and says, quote, "Say thou mocking spirit, it is not all a dream. We know thou waiteth for us when this our sylvan holiday has ended. We shall meet thee and fight thee as of old, and some of us prevail against thee, and some thou shalt destroy. But this too we know, year after year within this happy grove, our fellowship bans thee for a space. Thine malevolence which would pursue us here has lost its power under these friendly trees. So shall we burn thee once again this night, and with the flames that eat thine effigy, we shall read the sign, midsummer sets us free." End quote. The voice of the corpse then cries out against it, "Ye shall burn me once again?" End quote, and then breaks out into monstrous evil laughter. "Not with these flames," it says, "which hither ye have brought from regions where I reign. Ye fools and priests, I spit upon your fire." End quote. At these words, a spark of fire rains down from above and then crashes into the altar area with a bang, and the crowd begins to cheer again. The voice of the priest of Bohemian Grove, the voice that had called the men together, then beseeches the owl and says, "O owl, prince of all mortal wisdom, owl of Bohemia, we beseech thee, grant us thy counsel." End quote. And finally, the massive stone owl is lit by a glow from below and sings, "No fire, no fire, no fire, unless it be kindled in the world where care is nourished on the hates of men and drive him from this grove. One flame alone must light this fire, a pure eternal flame, at last within the lamp of fellowship upon the altar of Bohemia." The priest in white then responds, "O great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration." The men in robes, joined by the priest, then approach the altar with a torch and light the eternal flame, preparing to set the effigy alight. The priest then proclaims, "Begone, detested care, begone once more, we banish thee. Fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull care, and all the winds make merry with the dust. Hail fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free." End quote. The effigy of the dead body, which is laid upon the stone altar, is then set on fire and bursts into flames. The voice of the effigy is played over a speaker and screams in agony as it's destroyed. As that effigy representing a dead human body burns, pyrotechnics then explode on the sidelines, and music to the tune of In the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg plays. As the music drowns out the screams of the effigy, massive explosions of fireworks light up the crowd of spectators to this effigy burning ceremony. And as the recording of the ritual that Alex Jones captured ends, he gives us some insight into some of the occultist statements of the priest. Specifically, the quote, "We shall read the sign in your burned effigy," end quote. Alex claims that the ancient druids used to do this, and they would often roast animals, cats, goats, oxen, and horses. He claims that they would watch these creatures die in pain and gain some sort of power from their energy, as well as gain the ability to tell the future. It is odd that at the end of the ritual, the priest then sets that bound body, or effigy, on fire, and it shrieks and screams in pain as the pyrotechnics begin to go off on the sides of the stage. Perhaps this whole thing is some sort of metaphor for the energy being released from the screaming, burning corpse. Alex Jones then goes on to say that after analyzing the ritual itself, it was indeed Babylonian in nature. A mixture of the Canaanite ritual of child sacrifice to Moloch fused with ancient druidic rites. Alex states that this whole thing was exemplified by the quote, "female side of Satan," end quote, which in this case they referred to as she, then towards the horned god with the references to he. Alex then analyzes that boatman who we showed you the footage of rowing up the water with his face painted to look like a skull. That boatman is wearing a red cloak and holds his hand out in front of him as if he's pulling the damned soul of dull care towards him. Alex also points out that the particular ordering of the robed men is interesting. They're standing in a circle, with the high priest in white and the outer rings being men in red and black. Alex insists that this is consistent with the workings of the darker occult. At this point, Alex points out the small horned demon on the cover of the Cremation of Care program, the small stick figure using a broom and dustpan. He correlates that small demon to the bonfire by saying that the word bonfire got its roots from the word bonefire, or human sacrifice. It's easy enough to correlate the two, as the program cover also bore the image of a smoldering human skeleton, the skeleton of what we can assume is a child in the flames. Now, Alex says that after the ritual, the robed men, or club members, would be sweeping up the ashes. In other words, the demon on that cover represents a satanic club member taking part in a human sacrifice. To further prove that point, Alex also states that the pyrotechnics displayed after the mock human sacrifice were fired from wrought iron crosses, only 1.5 feet tall. Burning crosses, demonic stick figures, mentions of Satan in the female form, mentions of Babylon and Tyre, which faced the wrath of the Judeo-Christian God for occultism or disobedience. A screaming, burning human corpse, calling children forth before the altar of a 40-foot stone owl, and summoning the spirits of old dead friends who have passed on. According to Alex Jones, the Bohemian Grove is host to a satanic sacrifice ritual, and other people, including myself, believe the same. I mean, how weird is this, everybody? I just took you through some of that ritual. These are presidents of the United States. These are Republicans who are supposed to be good Christians, and Democrats too. These are billionaires, businessmen. These are famous high-profile doctors and celebrities, news people, all coming together to watch the mock burning of a child's corpse in the middle of the woods as it screams. And they say that it's just a play. I can honestly tell you, I have never been to a play quite like that. I don't think any of you viewers have also ever been to a play like that. And it's already disturbing enough that this play is top secret and heavily guarded and they don't want people filming it or showing it. But it's even more disturbing when you consider that these are world leaders attending this mock child sacrifice. That's got some really dark implications. So, after Alex Jones's documentary was released, an ex-Marine named Richard McCaslin raided Bohemian Grove and failed to find anything sinister, but spent the night in a cabin and was arrested the next day. He left a calling card on the owl shrine inside of Bohemian Grove, a placard that read Leviticus 18:21. Perhaps Alex was onto something, but after the documentary was released, he was widely criticized by most major media and called a crackpot for his belief that the members of the Grove were engaging in a possible real human sacrifice. There aren't any direct references, I will say, to the owl being a symbol of the ancient pagan god Moloch, but there are other similarities between the two. Moloch, or Moloch, is a figure that goes back to the books Leviticus, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and Jeremiah in the Judeo-Christian text of the Bible. In the Bible, in Leviticus 24:5, God speaks to the Israelites and commands them not to sacrifice their children to Moloch, and that any man who does so should be killed, or God will turn away from them. Leviticus 18:21, the very verse that was taped to the stone owl, says in the New International Version, "Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Moloch, for you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord." In 1 Kings, it goes on to say that Moloch is a detestable god of the Ammonites. And in the 2 Kings, an altar called Topheth is desecrated so that it can't be used to sacrifice children to Moloch. It is then mentioned again in Jeremiah that the practice of sacrificing children to this god is evil and hated by God. The ritual of sacrifice for Moloch was similar to that of what occurred in Bohemian Grove. In the Bible, it is sometimes translated that the children are passed through the fire to Moloch. In other words, the children were burned to death. Worship of Moloch was not abolished under the Israelites' captivity in Babylon. And though the Babylonian religion was pantheistic, including astrology and divination, it wasn't generally linked to human sacrifice. It is thought by some that this ritual was fabricated by the Romans to make the Canaanites appear barbaric, but it was recorded in Leviticus long before the Romans came into being, according to tradition around 1300 BC, while Rome was founded or began in infancy around 600 BC. The ritual of burning children to this omnipresent evil Moloch god is thought to have occurred in this way, from a description created by medieval French rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki in the 12th century. A grand altar was created with the idol of the enormous man or owl man made of brass. His head is that of a bull, and his arms are stretched out in front of him. A fire is then lit below the idol, and the brass figure is heated up immensely. Once the hands were burning, a child was then placed within them. When the child was placed onto the burning idol, it would scream in pain, but the priests would beat a drum so that the sound was drowned out, and the parent of the child wouldn't hear the pained cries. Naturally, the stone owl at Bohemian Grove doesn't exactly match that description of Moloch, but the loud music drowning out the screams from the effigy of dull care, the image of a burning child on the cover of the program, as well as the horned figure sweeping up the ashes, all strangely do relate to Moloch. Perhaps that demon, PJ, wasn't a demon after all, but a reference to this ancient god who had the body of a man and the head of a horned bull. Or perhaps it's a reference to both. You see, in 1667, John Milton's Paradise Lost named Moloch as one of Satan's chief warriors, one of the highest ranking fallen angels. According to this classic piece of literature, Moloch gave a speech in hell where he advocated for going to war against God, thereafter being revered on earth as a pagan god. Paradise Lost is a classic piece of literature, something the great authors and artists, these supposed men of culture that attend Bohemian Grove, are likely to have read. Perhaps making the mascot of Bohemian Grove and planning this whole ceremony around an owl was not only a reference to the pagan god of Moloch, but a reference to satanic worship and sacrifice, veiled by theatrical performance and pyrotechnics shooting from wrought iron crosses. You see, child sacrifice or human sacrifice has always been associated with beseeching a deity for power, health, wealth, or forgiveness. Perhaps the men of the Bohemian Club were beseeching their own deity for power enough to run a new world order, power enough to become the top brass of the military, the government, finance, and business. Perhaps that effigy, named for dull care, isn't simply an effigy after all. Perhaps it's a real human body, the body of a child wrapped and hidden away to appear as nothing more than a bit of dramatic and macabre theater. Others think that the statue ties into something else entirely, a reference to another group that people believe pulls the strings from the shadows. You see, the owl has long been associated with two other groups, the Freemasons and the Illuminati. But the owl isn't the only similarity. In fact, many comparisons can be drawn between the Bohemian Grove and the feared orders of the Illuminati and Freemasons. The Illuminati, as we know it today, refers to the secret society of the Bavarian Illuminati that officially operated for only a decade, from 1776 to 1785. The Illuminati was founded by a German law professor who believed in the Enlightenment, and his order sought to promote those ideas to those in power. The professor who founded the Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt, educated Illuminati members in reason, philanthropy, and other secular values. The purpose was to influence political decisions when these Illuminati members came into power. These few men, 6 or 9 people, wanted to take over the world. Their goals exceeded these means, however, as in their early days, there were only a handful of members. Most believe, though, that the Illuminati didn't end in the late 1700s, obviously, and that they went underground to avoid persecution. A lot of people, including myself, believe that the Illuminati is still running today, and that they have their hand in the honeypot in running the world. I think it's interesting. When you bring up the Illuminati to a lot of people, it's always hailed as a great conspiracy theory. But no one ever really acknowledges that at one point the Illuminati was a real organization with real goals to take over the world and control the world. At its largest, the Illuminati organization consisted of somewhere between 650 to 2,500 members, and did so by becoming a sort of sleeper cell within other groups, such as the Freemasons. Once inside these rival organizations, members would coax others into joining them in the Illuminati. You see, the Illuminati is known for their strange rituals, as well as their famous symbol of the owl, a Minerva-esque idol. They were also famed for their secrecy, adopting pseudonyms to hide their identities. The Illuminati also were intensely selective. They wouldn't allow anyone that was over the age of 30 to join them, as they were too set in their ways. The Illuminati prized secrecy so greatly that they used spy-like protocol to keep each other's identities hidden from the world. Many believe that the Illuminati, after all these years, has become successful, despite allegedly disbanding in the late 1700s. The government and the church had begun to fear the Illuminati for their success, and so membership was banned by an edict from the Bavarian government in 1785. Members of the original Illuminati were then imprisoned or exiled from the country, and Weishaupt himself was banished from Bavaria. Some believe that the Freemasons and the Illuminati are closely intertwined, that still today, the Illuminati recruits from inside the Freemasons' ranks. The Illuminati is also accused of ritualistic magic, satanic practices, and trying to achieve a new world order, similar to Bohemian Grove. They're blamed for famous assassinations, such as the death of JFK, the death of John Lennon, Michael Jackson, Princess Diana, with the accusations that these victims threatened the Illuminati's wishes and needed to be put down. The most famous theories about the Illuminati come from physicist John Robinson in 1797, who accused the Illuminati of infiltrating the Freemasons and in part starting the French Revolution. Only 1 year later, in 1798, founding father George Washington had written a letter addressing the threat that the Illuminati posed. Because of this letter, and subsequent anti-Illuminati books and sermons, Thomas Jefferson was accused of being a member of the group. Today, people accuse members of the wealthy elite of being a part of the Illuminati regularly, as well as people closely related to the film industry, which the Illuminati and Freemasons interchangeably at times are suspected by theorists to control with an iron fist. When a famous person holds up their hands and makes a triangle between them in photos, allegedly the symbol to identify oneself as a member of the Illuminati, people are quick to make accusations that they joined the order and thus gained wealth and fame. It is really strange how many celebrities do this symbol. Start looking for it. Start looking for those symbols. The symbolism of the Illuminati is ever present in everybody's everyday life. So I know I sound crazy, but the shit's true. This also, though, could be attributed to the Freemasons, who are said to have inspired the pyramid eye on the dollar bill. However, some people believe that the Illuminati themselves placed that eye at the top of the pyramid on the dollar bill. Whatever the case, though, the triangle is said to be the Illuminati's calling card. As opposed to the Illuminati, however, the Freemasons are official and established. Masonic order halls, the headquarters of the Freemasons, can be found throughout the 50 states, all with the triangular symbol of the square and compass, a reference to its beginnings as a stonemason guild in the Middle Ages. Reverend Jesse Jackson, George Washington, Mozart, Buzz Aldrin, and Duke Ellington are all famous members of the Freemasons. While most Masonic lodges, called Grand Lodges, have member lists of mostly unknown men, some believe that the upper crust of the Freemasonry runs the world. They are frequently accused of running the film industry, but are also accused of controlling international power and finance. Some also blame the Freemasons for infamous murders and accuse them of being worshippers of Satan, similar to the accusations against the Illuminati. The club is known for its rituals dating back hundreds of years, and the secrecy of what goes on behind the doors of Masonic lodges leads many to speculate on their intentions. The Bohemian Club has this in common with not only the Freemasons, but also the Illuminati, with many believing that all three orders engage in some kind of dark ritualistic magic. You see, the all-seeing eye, or the Eye of Providence, can indeed be seen on the US $1 bill, and is meant to represent the eye of God watching over humanity. But some believe it's the eye of the Freemasons, or the eye of the Illuminati, watching over the world. Only serving to fuel this rumor is the fact that the Roman Catholic Church forbids members from joining the Freemasons, even though the Masons allegedly promote charity and community service. I have a couple of friends that are Freemasons that are pretty powerful in the ranks of Freemasons, and they're really great people, so I don't know how much of this I really buy into. But in 1983, the church declared, quote, "Their principles, or the Freemasons' principles, have always been considered undesirable by the doctrine of the church, and therefore membership in them remains forbidden. The faithful who enroll in Masonic associations are in a state of grave sin and may not receive Holy Communion." End quote. The reasoning for this decision is the secular focus of the Freemasons and the role as a safe place for those with ideals and agendas that don't align with orthodox views. Such a harsh statement about the Masons, though, is sure to make people wonder why the church has such a grave outlook on them and their ideals. Some people believe that these ideals held by the Freemasons that are banned from the church are pagan and satanic worship in exchange for power and wealth. But how are the Illuminati and Freemasons linked to the Bohemian Grove? Many Masons are active members in politics and government, a theme that mirrors that of the Bohemian Club, and a theme that mirrors the fabled Illuminati. Also mirroring the Bohemian Club is the secrecy of the order and its all-male ideal, as the traditional Grand Lodges of the Masons accept only men into their ranks. There are lodges that allow women, and even all-women lodges. However, the traditional Masonic Grand Lodges do not recognize them. Only members of the Freemasons are privy to the rituals and secrets that occur behind the doors of the Grand Lodges, just like the shadowy inner workings of the Bohemian Grove. Indeed, those who try to sneak into the Grove are charged with trespassing, and one can only join the Bohemian Club if invited by several members. If not invited, you must join a decades-long waitlist. The initiation for the Bohemian Club, Vanity Fair reported, is a staggering $25,000, and yearly dues stack on top of that. It certainly seems as if the Bohemian Club makes it a point to ensure that only the wealthy elite can join them, those so highly desired that they would warrant an invitation out of the billions of people walking the earth. Playing into the idea that the club is a meeting place for the Illuminati and Freemasons, many believe that the Bohemian Club's motto, "Weaving spiders come not here," is entirely ignored by the members. It's widely believed that at Bohemian Grove, men of status gather to conduct business and grease the wheels of politics and finance. Some think that important political decisions are discussed in the Grove during the 2-week retreat, and one infamous plan of war was indeed discussed there according to some sources. Like we mentioned before, the Manhattan Project and its devastating loss of life was discussed with Robert Oppenheimer under the massive redwoods of the Grove in September 1942, according to the Washington Post. While some state that this is a fact, many call it hearsay. But as with any conspiracy theory, the truth is often hidden by speculation. The Grove's sinister aspects are also hidden by offhanded and negative comments by presidents, with Richard Nixon once describing the Grove with a slur generally aimed at homosexual men. Bill Clinton also made light of the Grove, once telling a heckler, "The Bohemian Club. Did you say the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. You'd get some fresh air." But Nixon himself may have something else to hide. While strictly prohibited, some believe his successful 1968 election campaign was organized and launched at the Grove. Meanwhile, in our era, the Grove may have been used as bribery by Republican donor and billionaire Harlan Crow. You see, the BBC reported that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas accepted luxury trips around the world, and several trips to Bohemian Grove from that man Harlan Crow. And this is really important because this plays into all of this. So, Clarence Thomas tried to say that he had never been to Bohemian Grove. There's news articles where he's claiming he's never visited, he didn't want to go, he's never been. And then people did their research and they found out that Clarence Thomas indeed has been to Bohemian Grove. Now keep in mind, Clarence Thomas is one of the most conservative members of the Supreme Court. He is still a Supreme Court justice right now. He has some very, very non-liberal views. I'm going to say, I don't really think he supports drag shows and the rights of all individuals. He's been very outspoken about restricting the rights of some people in the US. And yet, he was at the Grove. And even further than that, he tried to deny being at the Grove, and people have linked him to the Grove a couple of times. But I present to you, everybody, for the first time ever published on the internet, real photographs of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who tried to claim in the past that he was never at the Grove, and then claimed he's been there a few times. Here are photographs of him in the Grove. So here is the 1997 Doghouse Camp picture. And right there at the bottom, you can see is Clarence Thomas. Now, on the back of the photograph, there is actually some writing. This is from the Bohemian Grove. This was acquired from a former member. And you can see written there in the text, Clarence Thomas, right next to that guy we were talking about, Harlan Crow. But that's not enough. I decided if I'm going to go deep into this, I'm going to go incredibly deep. That's why I got all these programs, all of these maps that I'm going to release that you guys can all go look at yourself. And so not only do I have that camp photo of Clarence Thomas, I have multiple photos from multiple years. So this camp photo is from 1997 that shows Clarence Thomas at that camp. These photos that I've got right here are from 2003. So 6 years later. And who is that right there? Well, it's none other than Clarence Thomas. I don't know the other people that are in these photographs, but there's Thomas once again at Bohemian Grove. Oh, and I'm sure he's going to love to see these, but August of 2005, 2 years after that, here's Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice, right now at Bohemian Grove, smiling his little ass off. I don't know who these other people are that are with him, but you can see behind in this picture, there's some of the campsites and lodging. There's an owl. Yeah, Clarence Thomas, as shown in these photographs, not only lied to the American public saying that he had never been to Bohemian Grove, but he claims to be a hardcore conservative, and yet he is attending the Bohemian Grove, where I also have pictures of men dressing in drag, where it's known men dress in drag, where there are rumored to be orgies, all male orgies. And I'm in the camp of anybody can do anything they want in this life as long as it makes them happy. But Clarence Thomas is not. I would also encourage everybody to go look up the bestiality scandal that Clarence Thomas faced. He's got some really dark secrets, that guy. Yeah, that's the story with a lot of these politicians and why I think it's interesting, because even if they aren't sacrificing people or murdering children out in the woods in Bohemian Grove, there's definitely some shit that's going down out there, whether it's having parties with prostitutes or all these Republican, whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, conservative leaning people who outwardly spout a certain type of belief, and then in the woods they're running around naked with a bunch of other dudes getting drunk doing God knows what. I think that's something that people should know about, that their leaders just lie through their teeth. But anyways, people believe that the Grove is where America's most powerful go to cut deals and network. And what a better place for the Illuminati and Freemasons to recruit and plan their operations. The Illuminati is believed to have been influencing politicians and a new world order from behind the scenes since their inception, and perhaps they still conduct their business today beneath the shield of the Redwoods in Northern California. The symbol for the Bohemian Club is the greatest calling card for the secret orders, the massive owl that the Bohemian Club founders selected in their early days. Because, as you might know, the owl is also said to be the symbol of the Illuminati as well, representing wisdom and knowledge, a theme that is replete in the Bohemian Club's cremation of care ritual. Could the Grove be the place where the Illuminati still conducts their organization of world politics? And could the Freemasons, whose members still infest the world of politics, be organizing their own world domination plans at the many campsites? The rituals conducted at the Bohemian Grove mirror the claims of rituals conducted by the Illuminati and the Freemasons, and the symbol of the owl matches the mascot of the Illuminati, the Owl of Athena. But what could they be planning there? Well, one fringe theory is that one of the greatest American tragedies, 9/11, was planned in secret by longtime attendee and former President George Bush while at the Grove. Former German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt's own autobiography, Men and Powers, talks about the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations conducting meetings and making important decisions at the Grove. He also discussed the Bilderberg Group and how they too made important decisions at Bohemian Grove. But some think that other evils are not only discussed, but conducted under the shield of the Pines. Now, this is a really interesting little tangent. In 2024, this year, Project Veritas, a conservative journalism organization, was apparently revealed to have hidden that the was causing blood clots and some deaths. Apparently, Project Veritas was provided with a sample of the and they witnessed strange strings like spiderwebs forming in the bottle. They also noted many deaths of patients after taking that supposedly from blood clots. However, when Project Veritas gained evidence from about the dangers of the using a whistleblower, an entire 9 terabyte hard drive of supposed evidence, as well as incriminating footage, was hidden and ignored. Project Veritas apparently did nothing to report on it. The whistleblower, though, Justin Leslie, wouldn't let it slide. Speaking to Project Veritas's founder, James O'Keefe, Justin uncovered something horrific. The founder, apparently, after denying the story about the causing death in patients and ignoring the whistleblower's claims, had attended Bohemian Grove to ask for funding. O'Keefe, the leader of Project Veritas, was challenged by Justin, the whistleblower, who asked why he would attend a meeting of the country's most rich and wealthy while being a supposed journalist for the people. The only reason that O'Keefe should be attending, in Justin's mind, would be for O'Keefe to be investigating the club, not asking for funding from its members. O'Keefe said he didn't see anything wrong there while in attendance. He also said that many people he had known for years were at the campground. He even said that a lot of people who supported Project Veritas were involved in the club. But the oddity remained that after denying a story about a vaccine killing patients, supposedly hundreds or more patients according to Justin Leslie, a veritable bioweapon, the founder of the organization attended Bohemian Grove to ask for funding. Now, O'Keefe faced backlash from his team for attending and was investigated by his own people for the cover-up of not releasing that incriminating footage. Justin Leslie had delivered the footage of and the tapes had suddenly disappeared after he handed them over. Justin was told by an inside source that the tapes still existed but were being suppressed. Perhaps the members of the Grove, the powerful elite, had cut a deal with O'Keefe to hide this horrible truth in exchange for funding. But could Bohemian Grove, accused of organizing presidential assassinations and murders overseas, be responsible for covering up something like a dangerous I don't know. I think that those theories can definitely be a little bit far out there. I am not an person at all. I want to make that explicitly clear. But it is interesting when it cuts down to the thought of a cover-up of disappearing evidence, no matter what the evidence is, and how that ties into Bohemian Grove. Then there's also the child exploitation and mind control. One of the most disturbing aspects of the Grove is its strange ritual, the cremation of care. And in 2009, a letter was written by a woman named Pamela Schufert, which detailed a woman named Paula describing the horrors her former husband had faced as a child. The man, Jim Shaw, was apparently forced from childhood to become one of, quote, Ed Teller's boys, end quote. Of course, Edward Teller was the father of the H-bomb and a theoretical physicist. Now, Shaw, the man, had told his wife that Ed Teller forced him and other boys to take part in Sabbatian Satanist rituals inside the Bohemian Grove and in Hollywood. Shaw explained to his wife that he was forced to sacrifice other children under Ed Teller's control, and that he himself was used for sexual purposes in these demonic rituals that took place at Bohemian Grove. Theories already abound that strange take place at the Grove, where men are claimed to walk the grounds completely naked. This also is true because the Bohemian Grove faced a lawsuit where women were trying to get access into the Grove. They were claiming that it was discriminatory, that the Grove was only hiring men and that women weren't allowed in the workplace there. The Bohemian Grove filed legal paperwork stating that men are urinating openly throughout the Grove, and that should be a reason women aren't allowed. So that's a very, very clean and clinical way to say that there are naked men walking around Bohemian Grove. And then you have former presidents, people in the news, former members, lots of people that have testified that there are completely naked men walking around. And that once again leads into the whole aspect, that this is a men's only club where they're all getting really, really drunk. And I'm sure that a number of those people have some very repressed thoughts and desires. And when they're finally alone amongst the trees under the moonlight, very, very drunk, there's no cameras, there's no reporters, their own family members and wives aren't even allowed there. Who knows what kind of debauchery they're getting into? I mean, I've even heard from people that there are underground tunnels that children and prostitutes are piped into Bohemian Grove through. That's a very, very common thing that's said about Bohemian Grove. Whether that's true or not, we obviously wouldn't know because those would be top secret. All of this is normally said as a joke, but many believe it's the truth, that these massive do happen at the Bohemian Grove, as well as dark rituals meant to garner power for the 1%. And more evidence continues to pile on as you dig deeper. Paul Benassi, a man who was famously imprisoned for sexual abuse dealing with the Omaha, Nebraska Boys Club pedophile ring, stated that as a boy, he was forced to participate in satanic snuff films. The location that he said that he was forced to murder kids on camera at was none other than Bohemian Grove. In a documentary that I worked very, very, very hard on, we are going so far into the story of Paul Benassi and a lot of the stuff that we're about to talk about, but we're just keeping that under wraps for now. So this is very superficial knowledge that we're dealing with here. But as a child, Paul Benassi stated he was kidnapped by the U.S. military, tortured, and subjected to sexual abuse and mind control. Eventually, he won $1 million in damages from a court in Omaha after he pled his case. Now, Benassi reported that he had access to the White House living quarters after hours and testified that members of the top U.S. military and politicians engaged in a pedophile ring. Paul Benassi in his life faced horrific circumstances, and he stated that he was once forced to perform sexual acts with another boy before the child was shot in the head and killed right in front of him. As for the mind control, Benassi claims that it was carried out by General Michael Aquino, and that the CIA mind control research, like that of MK Ultra and Project Bluebird, was conducted on him and other children inside of Bohemian Grove. Now, with all of this considered, as well as the comment during the cremation of care centered on children coming to the Grove, the child sacrifice ritual at Bohemian Grove may be a reference to a massive child pandering network, as well as a death cult. I've also heard from people on the fringe of Bohemian Grove that they've heard whispers and ruminations of pedophile rings and orgies that operate within the Grove. I mean, you gotta understand, the US government is already heavily embroiled with pedophiles. Just take a superficial look at Epstein, then dive into all these other rings and the FBI and the CIA. There's no doubt in my mind that a place like Bohemian Grove, where multiple presidents are gathering in one place, military heads, intelligence heads, it's the most secure place in the world. There's no doubt in my mind that there has to be some sort of a pedophile angle to some of these activities. People have discussed that at the Grove, men come together to become even more powerful by coordinating mass mind control. And if Paul Benassi is a credible witness, I definitely believe him to be a credible witness after studying his story for such a long time, seeing material nobody has ever seen before that we're going to be talking about in the next couple months. But if Paul Benassi is telling the truth, mind control and child exploitation indeed takes place under the redwoods in Northern California at Bohemian Grove. And when it comes to the pedophile ring that Paul Benassi was involved with, I'm not going to speak too many details on that whole affair yet, but one of the accused was a U.S. president who I have mentioned in this video, and a president that has attended Bohemian Grove. This pedophile ring that we're gonna blow the lid off of was being ran by the CIA and the FBI. It's the most disturbing story you've ever heard in your entire life, and it's 100% true, provable with facts. Some of the stuff that I have access to right now is shit nobody's ever seen, and it is crazy. But a lot of the players from that pedophile ring have their hands in Bohemian Grove. There are players like Clarence Thomas that were accused in that ring. Their names come up, some of these people. And one of the things that was happening with that pedophile ring was blackmail recordings. Exactly like Jeffrey Epstein was recording his rich and powerful clientele as they were violently raping children. The same was happening with this ring that we're going to be digging into, where these powerful rich men were being videotaped as they violently raped children, and that's used as a form of blackmail. If you have video footage or photographs of a U.S. senator raping a child, it's like you're the puppet master. You can make them do anything you want. So it kind of makes sense. Alex Jones in his documentary actually shows that there are loads of cameras throughout the woods at Bohemian Grove, cameras that are hidden. What's the point of those cameras? That footage has never been released. A screenshot of that footage has never been released. Could somebody have access to those cameras and be using them for blackmail purposes, even if it doesn't involve pedophilia? If you got 3 openly kind of anti-LGBTQ people in the government on camera participating in a all-male orgy, that wouldn't look too good for their campaign. So I would assume that that's just another form of blackmail. And I might sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but once you go down this rabbit hole and you read these real documents and you read these books and these testimonies and you work with victims like I have, you realize this shit is not far-fetched. This shit happens every single day. And yeah, the question stands. Have these pedophile networks infiltrated Bohemian Grove? Are they providing children for these powerful men to violently rape I mean, there are camps at the Bohemian Grove that are off limits to other camp members. There are areas within the Grove that are purposefully hidden from members, and it's like the top of the top that only the certain folks can get in there. And yeah, I have no idea. So just recently, if you follow on social media events like this, there was a man who runs an account named Dancer who infiltrated Bohemian Grove. He snuck in kind of during the off season, and he got footage of a lot of this stuff. I reached out to him. He's a friend of mine. He agreed to give me an interview about some of the stuff that he saw while he was inside of Bohemian Grove, and I'm going to overlay some of his footage now while he talks about it. This is my interview with Dancer. So, interestingly enough, I was just talking to him last night, and Dancer recently went viral because he snuck into Bohemian Grove this year, and he posted footage that he captured of the cremation of care ritual as it was happening. And it was the same creepy shit. Robed people, creepy voices, screaming sounds as the body is burned, the mock effigy, burning, sacrifice, all of that shit was still happening this year. And he posted that footage. The Bohemian Club themselves actually contacted YouTube and got him to take it down. Let's put the screenshot up right now. And they said, I've never seen this before ever on YouTube. They took it down because it's, quote, a private performance. I've never seen some like that or justification like that from YouTube. How fucking crazy is that? So YouTube, platform that we're on right now, they're kind of obeying to these people. I mean, they have an email. You can see on that email form, I actually sent them an email. I didn't get a response back. I mean, that's shocking that you can't even post footage of what they do out there without being taken down by the elites. That's some shit, honestly. And I feel bad for Dancer, my friend. But at the end of the day, why else would Bohemian Grove, supposedly active only for a few events a year, be protected by a sophisticated security team all year? Locals in his documentary testified to Alex Jones that they had seen the FBI swarming Monte Rio, the town closest to the Grove, and another local testified that he was interrogated by the Secret Service after getting too close to one of the campsites. But there may be another witness to the evils of Bohemia, a big name in the boxing world, a man named Ryan Garcia, who apparently recently witnessed this child exploitation. Now, take all of this with a grain of salt, but this is pretty disturbing. Ryan Garcia recently spoke with Andrew Tate, another infamous social media figure who I've got my own opinions about. Ryan spoke with Andrew in a short interview and revealed how he came upon this shocking truth. Ryan stated that he had videos of the atrocities that happened at the Grove. He claimed that he was tied down by members of the club and forced to watch as children were molested after he had been abducted by them. And he's deadly serious in this interview. In the interview, Ryan Garcia says, quote, "They held me down and made me watch little kids get I don't give a anymore," end quote. He claims in the same interview that the high elite forced him to watch children be abused at Bohemian Grove, that he had video evidence, and that if Alex Jones could get video evidence, he could too. He further claimed that if they, the upper elite, threatened his life, he would release the footage and that he was untouchable because he had proof. This begs the question, could Bohemian Grove be even worse than we've ever imagined? A secret death cult of the elite? A pedophile ring of worldwide proportions where they sacrifice effigies? Or perhaps real children right under our noses? And are they testing mind control on children in the woods? Are they disguising the most sinister world plots as a massive frat party for the elite? And are the members blackmailed for taking part in these events or forced to serve whatever evil purpose the organizers of Bohemian Grove hold? Fringe theories state that the Grove is a modern-day testing site for more than just mind control, though. One article states that Bohemian Grove is possibly a place where the Nazi system of eugenics is carried out to this day. It's posited that this Republican playground is more than just a conservative haven, but a haven for those who still agree with the beliefs of the Third Reich. Moreover, it's thought that the elite in the Bohemian Grove have access to time travel, which they use to influence world events. Some people believe that at Bohemian Grove, the politicians don't only meet with each other, they meet with extraterrestrials to discuss alien technology and world domination. And though these theories are fringe at best and somewhat laughable, some people do truly believe in this stuff. That US military members, politicians, and businessmen are meeting with aliens to control the population and gain access to alien technology. The list of confirmed members of Bohemian Grove is pages upon pages long and includes names that reach up to the highest level of the US government. We'd like to believe that our government would never take part in such terrible atrocities, such as child exploitation and ritual sacrifice, but the American people have been lied to by our government numerous times already. For instance, the CIA's involvement with the mafia in the Bay of Pigs and Fidel Castro's assassination attempts, Iran-Contra, Watergate, MK-Ultra, Epstein, and so many more. Look up Operation Northwoods. The government and business world of America certainly isn't squeaky clean, but could these leaders really be wrapped up in a pedophile ring and a blackmail operation? Worse, could a death cult, a satanic ritual ground where children are sacrificed to dark gods, really exist out in the woods in Northern California? They say that in Bohemian Grove, the roads have to be lit day and night by streetlights because the redwoods block out the light of day. The truth is similarly shadowy, a shield of pines masking the reality of what occurs in this elite playground. The darkness of the grove can only truly be illuminated by the light of transparency. But what will truth reveal behind those stands of trees? Why does security run year-round at the grove? Why did a supposed journalist for truth go there asking for funding after blocking a whistleblower from sharing the truth? Why did Paul Benassi claim that he and other children were raped in the grove, forced to take part in satanic rituals, and that kids were murdered there? Why is the cremation of care ritual so eerily similar to early sacrifices to Moloch? And why does the Bohemian Grove share rituals, secrecy, and a mascot with the Illuminati, the fabled dark masters that pull the strings of wealth and power? The layers of secrets surrounding Bohemian Grove must be peeled away. And as they are, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just a gathering of the elite reliving their college revelry. Bohemian Grove is the place where power, influence, and wealth come together, where the future of the American public and perhaps the world may be being shaped. Whether one truly believes in the accusation of aliens and satanic rituals or not, the fact remains that darkness is the ally of the elite, hiding in their arboreal shelter. What plans are these freaks making that will direct our future, or worse, destroy it? Keep in mind, everybody, to this day, the Bohemian Grove is just a boys' club where men go out to drink and camp. There's no there's no male nudity, there's no ritual, there's no sacrifice, there's no magic that goes on, there's no child sex trafficking, there's no prostitute running, there's no drug use. It's just a place where groups of presidents and military leaders and rich billionaires and world leaders come together to have fun and blow off some steam, maybe go fish, take a little hike. That's all it is. It's Bohemian Grove. They really expect people to not analyze what they're doing there. My thoughts are they are trying to say that no business goes on at Bohemian Grove, nothing that's worth documenting to the American people. No history is being made there, no important decisions are being made there, nothing's happening that the American people should be informed about. But I beg to differ. Look at the Manhattan Project, and I actually have been in contact with somebody who has a letter from, it's an old actor, I forget his name, but this is like in the 50s or 60s, and it's a letter where a guy who is in the Department of Defense wrote this actor, I'll put it on screen, and they say, essentially, I remember our conversation that we had at the Grove. I'd like to find a place where I can make you useful, blah, blah, blah. But this letter confirms it. You have a guy from the Department of Defense, from the government, who was talking to an actor about business while they were at Bohemian Grove. It's there in writing. And then the actor is getting involved with the US government? I mean, the list goes on, and I think we need transparency. I know you, the viewer, have never watched a fake child's body being burned as it screams in front of a gigantic owl statue while you all chant and get drunk. I mean, these are presidents of America that are doing this. They're presidents that voice that owl. What the fuck? Anyways, this has been a very long episode, but if you want to go watch the documentary, I'm about to head to Bohemian Grove in 3 days to find answers for myself. So that documentary is going to be on my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel, The Paranormal Files. Watch out for that documentary. But thank you guys for listening. This is a 2 hour and 12 minute long recording. Holy fuck. This is quite the episode. I just want to refresh everybody's mind one more time. Clarence Thomas got the photographs, the photos, the cremation of care, all of the ritual shit, the maps. I hope you guys have enjoyed this really in-depth look at Bohemian Grove. You can make up your own mind about all of this shit. You are free to. Maybe you do think it's a club. I know it's not. It's never that simple with the US government, but I hope this video was a little enlightening. And yeah, go check out our documentary, Going to Bohemian Grove. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. To help support the channel, please click that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and leave me a comment, and share this video out with people you know so that we can keep spreading this truth to the American public and they can understand who their leaders are. Keep that tinfoil hat on, stay suspicious. Thank you all for joining this week, and I'll catch you next Wednesday.